Hi. So, how do you improvise on the piano? That's a really good question. Um, it's not something anybody ever taught me. It's something that I kind of just started figuring out. And so, what I'm about to explain to you might be different than what some other teacher might tell you. But I would say start with two chords and play around with those notes. So let's do C major and F major because those are chords that kind of flow between each other in a really nice sort of, how do I explain it? What you have to do in order to get into an improvisatory like state of mind is you really just have to like get into the flow. So you start out and it sounds a little choppy, and then you just have to trust the process and like turn off your critical mind and just get into the feeling and the hearing. Like you just listen and you just sort of like respond to what you're creating. That's the best way I can describe it when it happens to me. When I improvise and it sounds amazing, I'm not thinking anymore. So you just have to kind of give yourself like a framework to start with, and then you turn off the brain and turn on the fingers and just like go. Anyway, we're gonna start with F and C, going between the two of those. So first of all, what are the pitches for C major chord? We've got C, E, and G. And when you're improvising, you just like you play around with those pitches. So let's play around with playing them from the bottom to the top. Something like that. Very simple, but you're taking three notes, C, E, and G, and you're mixing them up a little bit. And then you play around with maybe not quite bottom to top, but you kind of circle around like. So kind of adding in like an Alberti kind of pattern, or just something that's a little more like cyclical or jumping back and forth. I do a lot of play with that. And then you change the chord between C and F. All right, so now let's try F. We're just gonna do C and A in the bottom hand, and then we'll do C, F, A in the top hand. And just sort of like mix up those notes. First, bottom to top. But that's kind of boring, right? So now let's make it a little more interesting. Maybe we do a little rocking back and forth in the left hand, and in the right hand we go. Kind of mixing it up a little bit, okay? You're just, with improvising, you don't plan, you just do. So you have to kind of get your brain into that creative flow place where you just let it happen and it unfolds. So let's start with the C major chord and then go to the F major chord and go back to C major and F major and just sort of see what happens. So we're going to be going from here to here to here. C to F, C to F, and then we're going to add a little bit of rhythmic interest, rocking a little bit, and we roll. Then we play around with how fast we switch between the two. I don't know. I'll have to think a little bit more about how to explain how to improvise, and we'll do a couple more lessons about it. But go ahead and start with that. Just start to figure out how to get yourself into that place where you're not overanalyzing anymore and you're just letting your fingers kind of do the walking and it just happens. That's usually where magic happens.